The San Diego Wave are surfing into the preseason because they just played their preseason opener at the Coachella Valley Invitational, and they were playing against the Houston Dash. So we need to get into it. It is officially the start of the year for the San Diego Wave and the women's soccer club in San Diego. It's a new team. We have a new coach. We have a new squad, brought in a lot of, international talent. We have a lot of great young players as well, but we lost a few really, really great players. Alex Morgan, the GOAT, retired last year. Jaden Shaw and Naomi Girma left to go to other teams, and those are two U.S. women's national team caliber players, so they will be sorely missed. And breaking news, hot off the press today, Maya Jones has now been loaned out to AFC Toronto. So Maya Jones is actually going back home, so wish her nothing but the best to go back home and hopefully enjoy it. You can't be mad at that. But it will be a roster spot that is vacant, that is open, that is a player that is obviously no longer on the squad. So that will hurt just a little bit, but again, cannot be mad at all for wanting to go home. Totally understand. But how does this change the team dynamic? Maya actually had a really good rookie season last year, would have been a second-year player going into the sophomore season, so it would have probably been very exciting to see her on the pitch. But again, best wishes over at AFC Toronto. And so this new team of international players, of youngsters, our team, the average age is roughly 25 years old. We also have 4 teenage players on the squad, so this is hopefully not only a squad built for right now, but a squad built for the future ahead. But to get into the game and against the Houston Dash, we got to start with, a couple important topics and news. Players like Kenza Dali, Robe Doniak, McNabb, McMahon, Torpy, Beal, they were not available for this game and were not selected. So a couple individuals that I actually had in the starting lineup or my projected starting lineup were actually not available. But we go into the game, we had this for the starting lineup. Starting at goalkeeper, and which will 100% be the starting goalkeeper at the beginning of the season, but hopefully throughout the rest of the season, barring injury, is Kaylin Sheridan. Kaylin Sheridan is an absolute great goalkeeper, so she is going to be back there holding it down. In the defense, we had Lundqvist, Cecile, Wesley, Maroney. Then in the midfield, we had McCaskill, Corley, and Ascanio. Then in the forward, we had Sanchez, Carusa, and Casarino. And that is close to the starting lineup, I believe, as far as who maybe will start at the beginning of the year. I did have a couple different individuals in there. Instead of Caruso, I had Doniak Robe. But again, Doniak Robe was not available. I also had Dali in there. Dali was not available. And then I had Torpy and McNabb as well. Those players were not available. So pretty close starting lineup, projected starting lineup. Also, I did project that they would have a 4-4-3 lineup, and I believe they did have a 4-4-3 lineup, and I think that will be the lineup going forward. I believe the 4 in the back is better suited for soccer in general, and the 3 in the back is really hard to pull off, especially if you haven't had a lot of time. But I think the 4-3-3 will be the formation we use throughout the season. But the game, it actually ended the way it started. It was a 0-0 draw. So no goals for either side. Very hard-fought match. First preseason game, new coach, new squad, new players. So they're going to need a little bit of time to get back into it. But if you've been listening to any of my San Diego FC episodes, I love defense because defense can always at least get you a point, right? It gives you a really good chance to get 3 points. And that's actually what almost happened in this game. We almost stole those 3 points, again, even though it's preseason. But the 2 big highlights that happened throughout the game, one came in the first half with Barcenas getting on the ball, one of our teenagers who's been at the squad since she was 15, absolute baller. Can't wait to see her continue to grow on this team and in the game of soccer in general. It's just going to be awesome to see. But Barcenas picks it up in the middle, drives through the middle of the defense, takes on a couple players, and then shoots a shot from distance that the keeper made a really, really great save on. So we almost came out and almost had that first half goal. But then at the end of the second half, so almost at the end of the game, Lundqvist hits a through ball to Sanchez. Sanchez takes a couple touches, a little smooth. He, 1-2 before firing, but just wide of the goal. And that probably would have been the end of the game, sealed the game for the win. But again, it's a really good showing, at least on the defensive end, because you don't give a chance to the other team. There weren't that many chances actually throughout the entirety of the game, but we didn't give the Houston Dash much of a chance on our goal, and Sheridan wasn't too busy. But this is kind of expected from first preseason game. Again, I really like that it was a clean sheet for the team, so we did not give up any goals. We'll see how we do next game on February 22nd against Bay FC. So we'll need to see that game. But, I have to say it's a little bit difficult. I did not get an opportunity to watch the entirety of this game. I've been trying to look. I think this game might be televised on Fox, but it's not very clear where these games will be televised, not only in the preseason, but also in the regular season. And what I found out, you need a lot of different channels and apps to catch the entirety of the season for the San Diego Wave FC. You're not only going to need Fox, you're going to need CBS Sports Network, you're going to need ESPN, you're going to need ION, you're going to need NWSL Plus, you're going to need Prime Video, and Paramount Plus if you want to watch all the regular season games. I don't have all those apps and channels, and a couple of them are free. So ION and NWSL Plus are free. I do have Prime Video. I don't have Paramount. I don't have Fox. I don't have CBS Sports Network. I do have ESPN Plus. I just don't watch that much TV. And usually if I do it through an app. And I think when we're talking about growing the game, especially to our local fan base, making sure it's consistently televised on apps and channels that everyone has access to at any time. I think it would be awesome if they had, a YouTube channel that they could per se broadcast those games on, but I'm sure these broadcasting agreements don't allow them to do that. So that's going to be a little bit tough. And it's just hard. It's just hard to keep up with all of that. And I think that does hurt the notoriety of the game. That does hurt the fan base and the ones that do want to stay consistent and be involved in these games, because how am I going to be involved in these games if I can't watch them, especially at a later time? If I'm, at an event, can I get all the access to the highlights? I checked the SD Wave FC webpage and I didn't see any highlights for the preseason game. And I only found highlights from a game in November of 2024. So I can't catch the highlights. I don't have the per se Fox app. I don't know if Fox records those to watch the full game at a later time. And then I need all these other apps to then watch the game during the regular season. So I think that makes a lot of barriers for a fan to continue to be a fan and support and root and to be there at all times, even if you can't be there physically at the game. Luckily, I will be at most of the games, so I'll get to see a lot of the home games in person, and that obviously will not affect me being able to see those games and to be able to react to those games and provide listeners with a game recap and analysis. But does that mean I can watch all those other games, or at least I have to find a way to? And so even for me, trying to do this research, trying to find out how the San Diego Wave FC did in this past preseason game, I had to do a lot of digging, a lot of searching, and I think that's a barrier to viewership. I think that's a barrier to growth, and it should be something, they should look at in the sense of, how are these broadcasting deals serving them in the long run? Because if it's that fractured, does it actually serve the growth of the game? And, anything with broadcasting, it's all about how many eyes are viewing this. So then you can have, a certain amount of ads and then get paid for those ads based off viewership. So we're going to have to see, how that looks and how that goes forward. that is something, I do want to bring up, because with San Diego FC, they gave their season ticket members the MLS season pass, so you can watch all of the games, the home, the away. You can watch all of the games that they have, and it just centralizes things. It makes me, as a fan and as a supporter of the team, it allows me as a fan and a supporter of the team to consistently be with the team, engage and be involved, and to have enthusiasm for the game. But if you miss some of those games, then maybe you're not watching as readily. Maybe it's not as consistent because, hey, usually maybe there's 1, 2, maybe 3 places I have to go to watch games, but now I need 5, 6 different places to go to watch games. I think that makes it really, really tough. Hopefully, it can get maybe a little bit more consistent, or they can narrow that selection down. But I had to go look it up. And again, it makes it just a little bit more difficult. Ease of use invites fans, invites people to join you in the festivities, in the hype, in the games. So hopefully we can see as much of the San Diego Wave FC as possible, but just a little disappointed that I really couldn't watch this preseason game. I couldn't go back and study the game. I couldn't go back and take my notes and analyze the game, which I wish I would have been able to do. I had to do a lot of research, a lot of digging, a lot of reading, which I don't mind reading, but it's easier to watch the game and use my own eyes, my own lens, to then break down the game instead of reading someone else's view of the game. Very, very thankful that the San Diego Wave FC, whoever writes their articles, I have to give them a lot of credit. Their articles are really well written. They're descriptive, even though they're short. So I have to give them props for that, because that's where I got most of my information. Then I had to go to the local news in San Diego to try to find out more information. So it's going to be a little bit difficult, at least in the preseason. But Mike Gio and the Penalty Kick Podcast is going to continue to put in that work. We're going to continue to support the women's game. We're going to continue to be there for the Wave FC, our professional soccer team in San Diego. So I'm Mike Gio with the Penalty Kick Podcast, and I can't wait to bring you the next game, the next episode for San Diego Wave FC.